Hi, I'm Taya Gill. With today's high-definition cameras, an actress needs a high-quality makeup. My secret is DMK Cosmetics. A natural foundation that covers flaws, won't rub off on clothes, and lasts the entire day. So whether you're under the brightest of lights or at a candlelit dinner with that special someone, DMK Cosmetics makes it all happen. Work in it, play in it, live in it. DMK Cosmetics. The secret's out.
Welcome to the Ron Russell Show. Set the record straight. Conversations with movie stars of Hollywood's golden years. You will be amazed at what they say, secrets, and the scandals you always wanted to know about. Stay tuned, or you'll be sorry.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Ron Russell Show. Did you guys out there ever have a fantasy about being a very famous actor? Like a sexy guy that gets all the dames? Like a guy that makes a movie with Kim Novak and then he goes off to marrying one of the richest women in the world who's absolutely gorgeous? And then he wins an Academy Award and he goes into several Hall of Fames, learns to be a pilot, flies a plane, still has women crazy about him. Well, if you did have that fantasy, then you must have been thinking about my guest today, the fabulous, great actor, Cliff Robertson.
Thank you.
How are you, Cliff?
I'm in pretty good shape for the shape I'm in.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's get right to the point here. I have a question to ask you. What was Dina Merrill like? Now, judging by my opinion would be, I saw her in Butterfield 8. She always played a bitchy rich woman. And every time I saw her perform, she played a bitchy rich woman. And when I did the Kay Ballard show, I said, you know, I never really liked Dina Merrill because I always thought she was a snobby bitch. And Kay Ballard turned around and said, oh no, she's wonderful, she's lovely. She gave a down-and-out actress a $10,000 check and said, it's a gift, don't give it back. Arlene Dahl adores her. Everyone that I know loves Dina Merrill. Now, you had it all. Money, fame, and a beautiful wife. What went wrong?
Oh, I don't know that anything went wrong. I think we were married 22 years, Dini and I, and we had a wonderful marriage. But she wanted to spend more time out here, and I wanted to spend more time back east where my daughter lives, and now my granddaughter. So it was a very amicable party. She's married a third time. I have not remarried. But she's a lovely lady, and we had a lovely marriage. We had a lovely daughter who passed away 2 years ago.
Sorry.
So we've crossed that Rubicon. She's a lovely girl, I can't say anything but good things about her.
Well, it was hard for you, I would imagine, an actor going into married post-serial and going to Mar-a-Lago as a Palm Beach summer home, winter home.
That wasn't a problem. I didn't spend much time in Palm Beach. I'm from La Jolla, so
right.
I'm used to sun and water and beaches, and Palm Beach is nice, but it wasn't a fatal attraction.
But did Dina like living out at East Hampton?
Yes, we lived out there in the summer, and I still live out there all year round.
I know that.
Not in East Hampton, but nearby. And we liked it in the summer.
So are you lonely now? Are you looking for a gal?
Well, I think any man who's been happily married for 22 years and no longer married has got to be a little lonely. I've got my cat, Halsey, and he's imperious and impossible. But and then I've got a lot of friends out in Long Island.
So yeah, what does Cliff Robertson do now all day?
All day? Good gracious. I do something beyond staring at my navel. I try to read and write, and I'm writing a biography.
Good.
And
will it be a book?
Possibly. And then I write a column for an aviation paper. It goes all around the country, and I write a column.
It's strictly for flyers?
It's for flyers and people who like airplanes.
All right. Joan Crawford, what comes to mind when I mention her name?
Well, she was a remarkable star back in the 40s and 50s. And I worked with her
in Autumn Leaves.
In my second movie, right.
Autumn Leaves.
She couldn't have been nicer.
Was she nice?
She was very gracious and very helpful.
When you threw the typewriter at her, she didn't mind?
Didn't mind. Didn't hit her.
It didn't hurt her.
That was a story.
Well, if anybody knows the film, of course they all do, because people that watch my show are movie buffs.
Yeah.
You remember the film Autumn Leaves with Joan Crawford and Cliff Robertson, where he was a disturbed man and she took him in and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he threw a typewriter and tried to break her hands. Now, tell me about Kim Novak.
He was disturbed.
Disturbed.
He had a problem.
Tell me about Kim Novak. How did you work in Picnic, by the way, the film with William Holden, Rosalind Russell, and Kim Novak? How did you work with Kim Novak and not fall in love and not want to run off with her, because she's one of my favorite movie stars?
Oh, yeah, she still looks wonderful.
She does.
I saw her not too long ago. She looks just fabulous.
Well, you know, I'm dying to get her on my show.
Well, no, you should try.
Well, I understand that she doesn't want to do interviews, and somebody said she'd gained a lot of weight and didn't want to be seen on TV, which is a lot of baloney, because I don't think that ever
She looked wonderful when I saw her.
She was nice and thin and Kim Novak-y, right? My
Beautiful.
Kim, I loved her. She had the most beautiful back. And in every movie she ever made, they made her dresses very low in the back. And they saw to it that the camera did back shots. How many ladies used to chase you?
Well,
You were a cute guy, you know. You were a good-looking guy. You're still good-looking, but you were a good-looking guy. Now, how many women went crazy over you?
Oh, not many.
You didn't have all those beautiful movie stars chasing you?
I wasn't into. I always had one girl at a time.
Anybody famous? Anybody you want to talk about?
I wouldn't say anything.
Well,
other than the fact that I'm
dated.
I've never had any bad relationship with the girl I went with.
Well, who'd you date in Hollywood that was famous?
Nobody famous.
No glamour girls?
I avoided the famous ones.
Well, you played President Kennedy in PT 109. Did you ever want to date Marilyn Monroe?
Oh, every young man had his visions and fantasies about Marilyn. I was included.
Did you know her?
No.
Never met her?
No. I saw her in the actor's studio when
Right.
the first day she came. She decided to go east and learn to act.
Right.
And she came to the actor's studio where a lot of us were studying. And I didn't know it was her. I saw this gorgeous blonde come. She sat right behind me. She was late, about an hour late.
Which is
And she
Marilyn
sat
Monroe.
sat right behind me, and I turned to Jerry O'Loughlin, the actor, who was seated next to me. I said, "Jerry, who's the blonde?" He said, "Don't look now, but that's Marilyn Monroe." I said, "My God."
Wow. I'll look again.
I'll look again. But she didn't have any makeup on. She had this absolutely white hair, sensational figure, and a black turtleneck sweater, and kind of rapt attention. Was very interested in learning about the method and all that.
Not interested in anybody in the room.
Not me. I was interested, but it wouldn't do any good anyway.
So who did you make a movie with that you really loved working with, respected?
All of them.
All of them. Smart move. Smart answer.
Well, I tell you, they've been very good to me. I've been very lucky. Very lucky. Dumb luck.
Well, no, you got Charlie. When the script, how was the script Charlie given to you anyway? How'd you get your hands on it?
Well, I had done a lot of things for the Theater Guild, and they decided to take a short story called Flowers for Algernon and develop it into a TV movie. And so they offered it to me, and I took it with great alacrity, and lucky to get it. And I said, terrific. And in the middle of rehearsal, somebody said to me, "Cliff, you're doing a good job. Who do you think is going to do the movie?" Oh. I said, knowing Hollywood, probably Debbie Reynolds. You know?
You're right.
I worked with later on, who's also a great gal.
You're right.
But anyway, I subsequently got the screenwrites. So for once I got to do a movie of a film I had done on television. Prior to that, I did the original Days of Wine and Roses, and Jack bought that and other people. But
you got Charlie.
I got Charlie.
And you won an Academy Award for your performance, which was outstanding.
Well, lucky.
Well, no, you could have overkilled on that and acted really weird and spoiled the part. But you played it so naturally, you actually underplayed it.
Well, I certainly tried to absorb the character.
It was absolutely authentic.
Thank you.
And watching that movie, if people were not told that you are a conventional person, they would think that you were this sort of slow-minded man.
Well, that part came easy for me. The intelligent part was a little more difficult for me.
You did a great job on that
Thank you.
film.
Thank you, Rob.
Now, working with Rosalind Russell, one of my favorites. Never met her. Would have loved to.
She was my favorite, all-time favorite. She had everything. She had beauty, she had intelligence, she had wit, she had humor, she had class.
And she was a funny lady.
Funny, funny, brilliant.
Great actress. Great comedian. How about Bill Holden? What was William Holden
One of the
like?
best guys in Hollywood I ever met. Well, he was a pal of mine.
Yeah.
Because my first movie, Picnic, I played with him, and he was, couldn't have been nicer. A wonderful fellow. A tragic ending.
It was a sad, his accident,
Yeah,
when he fell and hit his head and died. But when I saw Picnic, I felt that Bill Holden was a little too old for the part. And I thought that Cliff Robertson should have played Bill Holden's part because it would have worked better.
No,
I just think he was a little too old to be a 23-year-old guy, a bum, you know, riding the rails, and he meets this gorgeous blonde Kim Novak, and he falls madly in love with her, and she's willing to give up her family and friends to run off with this hobo. It was a little difficult to believe that a beautiful creature like Kim Novak, at her age, young, would fall in love with such an older bum. Whereas if it were Cliff Robertson, he was young and handsome, well, I could understand why she'd run away with the handsome young bum. That's my opinion, but obviously the studio thought differently.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I think you're wrong.
Why is that?
Because I think Bill was perfect.
You don't think he was too old?
No, well, he was a lot, it wasn't 23, and neither was I.
But it was silly, I thought, especially when they were doing the dance, when he was
Oh
clapping
boy, he was
his hands
great. He was
with
great.
Kim Novak.
He was very good.
I love Bill Holden.
He's a wonderful guy.
I like him as
He
an
called
actor.
it the way it was.
I mean,
straight shooter.
Yeah, Bill Holden was a great actor. He did some fabulous films.
Yeah.
Fabulous films. But he was a buddy of yours, right?
Yeah, he became a buddy of mine.
From that film.
He was sort of a mentor. He guided me a little bit. He had feelings about Hollywood that were not always positive. So he told me, be careful. And I was still living in New York then. So I tried to be careful.
Well, what a wonderful way to segue into the name of my show. You know, my show is called Set the Record Straight.
Sure.
And I ask every celebrity that comes on, if there's something that went on in your life that is not correct, and the press has ruined it, now is your chance to set the record straight. And I would like to know I knew David Beagleman, by the way, and I would like to know the whole truth about when David Beagleman wrote that $10,000 check out and signed it, and the studio said to you, knock it off, don't squeal. And you did. You went forward with it. Go, boy. Let's hear about it.
I don't think the operative word is squeal. I simply did what was legal.
Yeah, but they thought it was squealing.
Well,
the studio heads.
That's their
ratting on a big shot.
No, it wasn't that at all. It was a matter of avoiding being an accessory to a felonious crime. He had forged people's names, including mine, on checks, and everyone was afraid to report it.
Because he was powerful.
I gave it to the FBI. Mm-hmm. Because I would have been an accessory to the crime if I'd withheld that information. I just said whatever the law says. I said to my attorney, I said, what does the law says? He says, the law says you have to hand it in. I said, okay, there it is.
But when did they give you the threat, or did they threaten your career? Because I understand you didn't work for a while.
Yeah,
Hollywood blacklisted you because of that.
Well, maybe a few people, but the town has been very good to me since then. I've been very lucky, very fortunate. But,
so David Beagleman's threats didn't really work?
Well, yeah, they worked. I didn't work for about 3 years, but that was all right. We survived. And after the war, I went to New York, and I thought, well, I'll try to write for the theater. I couldn't get work, so they put me in as an actor. And I had a dirty little secret, Rod.
Wow.
I learned in the La Jolla 3rd grade, I learned in Miss Radford's class, that if you volunteered for that dumb little play that they had for little kids, where you play a vegetable, you know, I played a radish because I was short for my age. And if you played a part of a vegetable in one of those things, you wouldn't have to stay after school for doing something naughty. And I learned then, if you volunteered for the play, you'd get something out of it. So it was a dodge. And then I went away to military school, and I found out the same thing. Volunteer for that play, You won't have to walk around the quad with a 40-pound pack and a rifle. So to me, acting has been a kind of an evasion. It's a way of avoiding doing something you don't want to do. But I took it seriously after a while. At first I was rather cavalier about it, but then after a while I began to realize that maybe there was something to the art itself. And then I studied the Actors Studio, and I did plays, and the rest is some kind of history.
Well, thank you for all the history you've left us, because
you,
you've got some great films out there.
Oh, bless
and
your
some
heart.
beautiful, no, not bless my heart, it's the truth. Like I say on my show all the time, you know I don't stroke anybody, you know that. One question I want to ask you, just a brief question.
Sure.
Did you know Howard Hughes well?
Never met him.
Okay, so you weren't flying buddies.
No, he is a little ahead of my time and too rich for me.
Well, wow, too rich for you. What was Dina Merrill, a pauper? She's post-cereal, Cheerios,
Well,
Kellogg's cornflakes or whatever.
She's a darn good actress and had a lot of talent and has a lot of talent.
What'd you think of her performance in Butterfield 8?
I thought she was great.
You thought she was good?
Yeah.
I thought she was really cold and good. She got me convinced. She cared more about the mink coat that Elizabeth Taylor stole than that fact that Lawrence Harvey was having an affair, her husband.
She was abiding by the writer's desires.
I know that.
She was being very professional.
I thought. She's very beautiful, by the way.
Beautiful lady.
I'd like for you to come on my show, Dina, now that I've said those awful things about you.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to still see you act.
Well, I still am. I've done Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right, all the Spider-Men, yes, I forgot about that.
Uncle Ben.
Spider-Man, right.
I did.
What did you do on Broadway?
On Broadway, I started with the Marine Stapleton.
Right.
And I loved that play. And that was wonderful.
What'd you think Anna Magnani and Marlon Brando did with it when they made it the, what was it called? The
Fugitive Kind.
Fugitive Kind.
Well, Marlon wouldn't do it. Marlon didn't do it. Initially, he was supposed to do the play. But when he heard Anna Magnani was going to do it, he said he wisely decided not to, because as he said in an interview, he said, she'll mop me up.
And she did.
She's a hell of an actress.
Antonio Francioso, who is a pal of mine,
he's a good
Tony.
guy.
I love Tony. He's gone now. He said that Anna
Has he passed away?
Oh, sure, Tony passed away, right?
Oh,
he was married to Shelley Winters.
Sure.
Shelley died, and a week later, no, he died a week before Shelley.
Oh, no.
And Tony died, then Shelley died. Wasn't that funny? Yeah, I love Tony. And he told me when he did Written on the Wind, Wild as the Wind with Anna Magnani, that it was an experience that he will never, ever forget in his entire life. He said, you know, Shelley Winters was a powerful actress, but Anna Magnani, he said, was just dynamite.
In an interview in New York, I remember reading this interview. He was interviewed by Truman Capote.
Oh, Truman Capote.
Yeah. And he said he was asked why he didn't take the play, which I ultimately did.
Right.
And he said, when I heard Anna Magnani was going to play the woman, he said, I didn't dare go on that stage with her. He said, she would have mopped me up.
She was very before her time, with the wild hair and the no makeup and the dark eyes and the scream and all the Italian gestures.
Yeah, she was
I've never met her. I loved her, though. I would have loved to have met her. Okay,
she's
now
terrific.
I'm going to probably go someplace where most people go and I shouldn't, but I don't think you needed Lee Strasberg. But were you one of his Actors Studio people? Did you believe in his method of acting?
Well, I learned to believe in it. You know, there's no one method in acting. They always refer to the method.
Right.
But there's no one method. There's a combination of attitudes. And Stanislavski said that himself.
Right.
He said the American theater has adopted the method as the only method. He said there are many methods. You have to find what works for you.
Well, the method they were talking about, going back to Anna Magnani, was when in Italy when Vittorio De Sica did a film, he wanted the real thing.
Yeah.
He didn't want acting. If you acted, he threw you off the set.
That's right.
And I think America adapted that with the little boy on the bicycle. What was that? The Bicycle Thief. Great movie. And I think that's what started the Actors Studio, was the fact that they were copying the European performers. Sophia Loren, who I love and adore, who I know, lucky me, great actress. But when you talk to Sophia about acting, she said, I said to her, how do you cry so on the spot? And she said to me, I have much to think about in my life to cry. And I think about what I was doing at that time, and I become the person in the character. And I think you do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Now you're a waspy guy from La Jolla, California, and your name is Clifford Parker Robertson, and you came, I guess, from an affluent family, because La Jolla is not a poor, shabby neighborhood. It's one of San Diego's, really, it's like the Beverly Hills of San Diego. Am I correct?
Not correct.
Okay, so you walked in a supermarket.
No, all right, my father was a very happy-go-lucky, talented, bright man, but he was damned by wealth. And
so he was wealthy. He came from wealth.
Well, he inherited. He didn't earn it.
Well, from where did it come from? Who was that?
Well, my great-great-grandfather. But those
What
fellows...
was your great-grandfather?
They were ranchers.
Oh, right, cowboys.
Well, not cowboys, but they had cattle and horses and...
That's cowboy.
Yeah, well, actually, my ancestors all fought they fought in the Revolutionary War, Civil War.
See that?
Big war, World War II.
So you're a many generation American.
We're patriots, yeah. And I'm no longer ashamed of that. I was never ashamed, but I was embarrassed because my old man never worked. And we would play, and kids would say, well, my father's a doctor, my father's a businessman, my father is a carpenter, and I couldn't say my father's a playboy.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, I lied about my age when I was 10. I told the man I was 11 so I could sell magazines. And I ended up selling magazines, and then I had a newspaper out. Then I had lobsters. I had a boat. I'd get lobsters in the morning. I worked all my life, and I loved working. Well, when I tested for the role,
Which role?
In Autumn Leaves.
Okay.
I thought, my God, Joan Crawford, to me, from my era, she was the quintessential older woman, sexy, wicked, beguiling. And I thought, what am I doing? Here I'm playing a much younger person than she is.
Much younger fellow. Supposedly, there was a script.
That was part of the script. At any rate, so when I did it, I thought, oh boy, this is going to be terrific. Here I am, a callow kid from La Jolla, California, by way of New York in the Actors Studio, and here I'm going to work with this woman who seduced Walter Houston in Rain. After one evening, he killed himself, and I'm making love with this lady, and I thought, this is not going to work. But she lived out in Brentwood, and Balboa said, well, Cliff, you might want to call her and just tell her you've gotten in from New York. And I said, fine. I said, when would you like to rehearse? And Betty said, Cliff, Miss Crawford doesn't rehearse. And I said, okay. So
she didn't rehearse ever?
Well, she called back a day later and said, well, she said you can come on Thursday. And I said, well, that's great. So I rented a rent-a-wreck, and I went out there, and I nervously drove into the driveway, and this butler came out and opened the door for me and said, Miss Crawford is waiting. I thought, oh my Lord, I'm late, but I wasn't. But he took me in a very roundabout way to the backyard, which was a fabulous lawn, and pool and swimming house. And all along the walls were these black and white Hurrell photos of Joan and her various leading men. No other women, but just black and white, beautiful photographs. But I thought, well, why is he doing this? It's to kind of introduce me.
To show you, yeah.
Show me where I was. So we got to the back thing, and he said, and there I saw there was this scene out in the lawn on this white French furniture. And here were about 6 men and 1 woman, and the 1 woman was Joan in a robe with a very shapely leg extended into a bowl, and a woman was working on her hands.
So you got a manicure and a pedicure.
Shirley was her name. And the butler said, Miss Crawford, Mr. Robertson has arrived, she said. In that voice, right. Come in, dear boy. Come on in, we've been waiting. I thought, oh God, I'm in trouble. So we got up there and she said, I want to introduce you to my staff. And this is John, my publicist, and this is Harry, this is my bookkeeper, and this is my assistant, and all these people all are working for
Rallying
her.
around
And
Joan.
up there is Shirley, and I thought, hello, Shirley. And then she said, she said, Cliff is from the Actors Studio, you know, where the Marlon Brando comes from. Oh, God, what a ridiculous scene this was. I had a script on my hand, I was sweating. She said, sit down, dear boy. Now, where do we begin? I said, well, I guess at the beginning. She said, who says what?